earn for North Koreans by being here so early this morning and for joining our Congressional Defense and Foreign Policy Forum. We were in New York City yesterday. We got back late last night on the train. But these women were here to participate in the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, whose focus this year was on overcoming poverty and trying to overcome inequality for women. And so we brought 3 amazing women from North Korea as eyewitnesses to share their stories of their involvement in creating the market system in North Korea and the incredible role that the women of North Korea played in North Korea out of the sheer self-determination of trying to feed their starving families when the Arduous March started. We further hope to show through their testimonies that what we can see through unification, what that's going to mean for all of Korea, because what Korea needs is the end of this brutal dictatorship, the end of the Kim Jong-un regime. And there's many people, understandably, in South Korea that fear regime collapse because they think about the economic hardship that may come upon the people of South Korea because of how dire things are in North Korea. But we believe that through these testimonies, we believe we'll prove that once North Koreans are freed, not just North Korean women, but North Korean men, all the North Korean people are free from the dictatorship, that the great prosperity that can come to North Korea. So the North Korean defectors, I've always responded whenever we're asked, when is the regime going to collapse? We always say tomorrow, because that's what we're working towards, and we hope that day is going to happen very soon. So what we're going to do this morning is, because I want you to hear them, here's their full testimonies, I'm going to introduce them all in order so that they can come one right after the other to save time. And I want to acknowledge Esther Kim, who's going to translate for them. Esther Kim's with the North Korea Freedom Coalition. And I'm going to do them in order of how they'll be testifying. But there's also a bios that we distributed, short bios. But let me just describe them for you and then explain why they came here to testify. Kim Ji-young is going to be our first witness. She was born into an elite family in North Korea, which thus she was allowed to live in Pyongyang and attend the prestigious Kim Il-sung University. Realizing that she could achieve greater success by working in private industry, she became a restaurateur in North Korea. She wants the people of the world to know that the regime does not care about the people of North Korea, who she describes as slaves, whose only crime was having been born in North Korea. She escaped in 2012 and made it to South Korea, where she now works for Free North Korea Radio and helps with Operation Truth, which I will describe a little bit later. Our second witness is Bae Yu Jin, who was a singer and a laborer before she joined the market system to feed her family. She began trading in Chinese goods and South Korean dramas and started helping to spread them all through North Korea, helping to spread South Korean culture throughout the country. She is the most recent to defect and just reached South Korea in 2019. She was helped by her son, who reached South Korea just before her, which is very typical when you hear about families escaping. Then another family members gets to South Korea and then helps rescue those that are left behind in North Korea. This is her very first visit to the United States, and she very much wants you to understand the grim reality of the North Korean human rights situation. She's currently studying to get a degree in social welfare. Our third witness and final witness is Kim Hang-woon, who worked for a state construction company and as a textile mill laborer before she became a successful businesswoman with a distribution network of Chinese wholesale goods and food in every single county in North Korea. She eventually opened her own food store, and her success became a business model for others. After the death of her husband, she became a victim of human trafficking, a fate which is not uncommon for many North Korean women who were lured to China with the promise of a job, only to end up being trafficked and sold. She eventually escaped to South Korea in 2013, and then rescued her daughter, who made it to South Korea in 2019. This is her first visit to the United States, and she would like to expose the reality of North Korea to the rest of the world. She currently works in helping care for the elderly, and she's also attending studies. So with that, I'm going to call on our first witness, Kim Ji-young, and Esther Kim, our translator, to come forward. There you go. It's on. Okay.
Can you stay here? Yes, ma'am. 네, 안녕하세요. 북한 주민들에 대한 여러분의 관심과 배려의 경의를 표합니다. 또 워싱턴에 있는 이 의미 있는 자리에서 저희를 세워주신 유엔 여성위원회와 북한 자유연합에도 감사의 인사를 드립니다.
First of all, I express my utmost gratitude for your concern and support for the people of North Korea. I would also like to thank the United Nations Commission on Status of Women and North Korea Freedom Coalition for having us here on the meaningful occasion.
저는 2012년 11월까지 평양에서 살다가 대한민국에 입국한 탈북민입니다. 저희 할아버지는 김일성이 알아주는 간부였고 그런 이후로 저희 아버지는 버의원으로 어머니는 노동당 여성 간부로 국가적 혜택이 중심에 서 있었습니다. 집안의 외동딸인 저도 그런 가정 환경을 배경으로 김일성 종합대학에 입학할 수 있었습니다.
After living in Pyongyang until November 2012, I defected to South Korea. My grandfather was a high-ranking officer recognized by Kim Il-sung. For this reason, my father was a state security officer and mother was a cadre of the Workers' Party. We were at the center of national benefit of North Korea, as you see. And as an only child of the family with such background, I was able to attend Kim Il-sung University, the best university in North Korea.
제가 대학에 입학하던 2001년은 평양에도 아사자가 생겨나던 때였습니다. 김일성 종합대학을 비롯한 주항의 몇몇 대학을 제외하곤 북한의 모든 대학생이 수업을 중단하고 산나물을 뜯으러 산에 올랐고 평양시에 고자고 있다고는 하지만 중심 구역이 아닌 주변 구역 사람들은 식량을 공급받지 못해 굶주린 배를 움켜쥐고 시장통을 헤매곤 했습니다.
In 2001, my first year of college, there was an outbreak of starvation in Pyongyang. All North Korean college students, except for a few universities in the center, including Kim Il-sung University, had to leave the schools to climb up mountains to pick greens and other edible plants. If they lived on the outer limits of the Pyongyang, they too had to wander around the market with an empty stomach due to food shortage.
대학 등교를 위해 집을 나설 때면 하루도 빼지 않고 먹을 것을 달라고 구걸하는 애들이 저를 쳐다보곤 했고 지금도 그 얼굴들이 눈앞에 어른거리곤 합니다. 그런 애들에게 식은 밥 한 덩어리라도 줄 수 있던 저를 낳아주신 부모님께 감사했고 그런 부모님의 뒤를 이어 국가의 간부가 되려고 꿈을 키웠던 것도 사실입니다.
Whenever I was leaving home for class, children on the street look at me begging for food. Even now, I can still vividly remember their hungry-looking faces. I was grateful to my parents for what I had. It allowed me to give even a lump of cold rice, the cooked rice, of course, to them. It's also true that I once had a dream to succeed my parents to become an officer of the North Korea.
하지만 북한의 최고 대학에서 김정일이 무릎에 앉아 사진 찍은 모습을 자랑하는 핵심 계층 자녀들과 함께 공부하면서 저들에게 중요한 건 당에 대한 충성심이 아니라 상대적인 행복감, 그 행복의 성취를 위해 필요한 달러이고 권력임을 알게 되었습니다. 저희 학급 학생들 가운데 세이코 롤렉스 시계를 손목에 걸지 않은 학생이 없었습니다. 머리부터 발끝까지 미국 상품, 남한 상품, 일본 상품을 고집하는 그들을 보면서 돈에 대한 욕심을 키워온 것도 사실입니다.
However, while studying at the top university in North Korea with the offspring, the children of North Korean elites, who boasted that they had taken photos of themselves sitting on Kim Jong-il's lap, I learned that what mattered to them was not the loyalty to the party or to the country, but their relative happiness, which derived from the money, in other words, dollars. Every classmate of mine had either a Seiko or Rolex watch on their wrist. It is also true that my desire to accumulate wealth came from my classmates, who decorated themselves with only American, South Korean, and Japanese products from head to toe.
마침 제가 대학을 졸업하던 2004년은 돈만 있으면 개인이 운영하는 외화식당, 내화식당, 국가기관과 군부대 이름만 걸어놓은 외화벌이 사업소가 생겨나던 시기였습니다. 대학을 졸업하고 공무원으로 임용되었지만 저희 월급은 1,200원으로 시장에서 사탕 3알 정도밖에 살 수 없었습니다. 저는 공무원을 그만두고 대학 시절 늘 생각하던 개인 사업으로 식당을 운영할 마음을 먹었고 부모님께 도움을 요청했습니다.
In 2004, when I graduated from college, restaurant operated by either foreign or domestic currencies or just general foreign currency making businesses under the state and military institutions were emerging. I was soon hired as a civil servant, but my salary was only 1,200 won, equivalent about just $1. And I could barely afford 3 candy bars at the market with that money. I decided to quit my job and run a restaurant as my private business, which I long considered in college. I asked my parents for help because I did not have that much money.
청 사장에게 매달 $150와 주변 간부들을 대상으로 한 공짜 식사 20테이블, 국가에서 요구하는 사회적 가제를 빗댄 헌납금을 내는 게 사장의 가장 중요한 임무라는 걸 알게 되었습니다. 솔직히 직원을 고용하고 주방 요리사에게 1일 $2, 홀서빙에게 1일 $1씩 지급하는 것은 일도 아니었습니다. 언제 누구에게서 기업 경영에 대해 배운 적은 없지만 직원들의 야근 수당을 챙기고 복지 환경을 마련하는 것도 당연히 사장의 임무라고 생각했습니다.
어디 했죠 지금?
여기를 했어요. 이걸 위를 안 했나 봐요. 그죠?
이거 왜 안 했어요?
그렇게 하고 이거 해. 이거 해요?
오케이.
네.
오케이.
요거 먼저 하고요.
Okay. I learned that the most important part of my business was to pay the owner of the entire restaurant property $150 a month and provide 20 tables of free meals to government officers in the area and make contributions under the social challenge fee required by the North Korean regime. Frankly, hiring employees and paying them $2 a day to the chef and $1 a day to the waitress were not an issue for me. That was the very easy part. Although I never learned about business management from anyone, I thought it was the owner's duty to pay employees overtime wages and provide them with good working conditions.
일반 주민들은 평생 만져볼 수도 없는 미화 $5,000를 투자해 평양의 도심 한가운데 냉면집을 열었습니다. 100평짜리 건물에 대한 권리금을 주고 기존 식당 안에 나만의 개인 공간을 배당받아 식당을 차리고 냉면을 팔기 시작했습니다. 당시 23살이었던 저는 외부적으로는 식당의 종업원이었지만 실제로 5명의 종업원을 거느린 사장이었습니다.
I invested, this one she should have said first, okay, but anyhow, I invested $5,000, which was extremely huge amount for ordinary North Koreans to open a Pyongyang cold noodle naengmyeon restaurant at the center of the city. I paid a premium for about 3,500 square foot of the building and had my own space in the existing restaurant. With this new space, I started selling cold noodles. I was only 23 at the time. Externally, I was just one of the restaurant employees, but internally, I was a passionate owner of a restaurant with 5 employees.
매일 아침 시장에서 식자재를 가져오고 음식의 품질과 가격을 조율해 갔으며 무엇보다 신용과 신뢰를 쌓아가는 게 성공의 길임을 깨닫기도 했습니다. 그런 환경을 바탕으로 대동강 맥주집도 권리금 형식의 뇌물을 바치고 인수하여 25살의 나이에 식당과 맥주집을 운영하는 경영인이 되었습니다.
Every morning, I bought groceries from the market and coordinated the quality and price of foods. Most of all, I learned that building credit and trust was the path to success. Based on this setting, I took over Daedong River Bar, the beer bar, with a bribe in the form of paying a premium and became a manager who ran 2 restaurants at the age of only 25.
물론 북한만의 특수성에 따른 뇌물은 이 모든 성공의 디딤돌이었습니다. 시도 때도 없이 찾아오는 주황의 간부며 구역의 사법 관계자들, 어느 간부집 자식이라고 찾아와 행패를 부리는 젊은이들이 뒤수순까지 해야 했던 터무니없는 날도 많았습니다.
Of course, understanding North Korea's unique characteristics, bribery was the foundation of all the successes. There were, moreover, many asinine days when I had to suffer the rude behaviors of children of elites, of district legal officers, and the Central Party officers who showed up too often for free meals.
당시 외화식당과 외화상점 책임자들은 북한에서 외화벌이 사업장의 안전과 발전은 뇌물의 양과 질에 비례한다고 말하곤 했습니다. 어떤 뇌물을 얼마나 바치고 간부들에게 달러를 얼마나 주는가에 따라 없는 죄도 생기고 있는 죄도 없어지는 게 북한 사회의 구조적 모순이라는 이야기였습니다.
At that time, the owners of foreign currency earning restaurants and stores used to purport that the security and development of their business in North Korea were proportional to the quality and quantity of their bribes. Namely, based on how much dollars and what kind of bribes they gave to the elites, high-ranking officers, people could either avoid punishment for their crimes or be falsely accused of something that they did not commit. This was the structural irony of North Korean market system.
그래서 북한에서 달러를 좀 만진다는 사람들은 내 발 한쪽은 감옥에 있다고 이야기하면서 늘 조마조마한 심장으로 살아가고 있습니다. 언제 어디서 무슨 제목으로 감옥에 갈지 아무도 모른다는 말이었습니다. 하지만 저는 당에 충성하는 부모님을 모시고 낼 것을 다 내면서 떳떳한 장사를 한다고 생각했기에 늘 가슴 펴고 식당에 출근했던 것 같습니다.
Thus, North Koreans who handled dollars always lived with anxiety, even though they have some money, saying that they always had one foot in prison. No one knew when and where and for what reason they could go to prison. Yet, I always thought that I was doing an honorable business, paying my fees on time with parents loyal to the party. I proudly worked for my restaurant.
그러던 어느 날 평양에서 특산물 식당 지배인으로 일하던 어머니가 구역당 회의를 가던 중 보안성에 끌려갔다는 청천벽력 같은 소식을 듣게 되었습니다. 당시 보이지도원으로 일하던 아버지는 돌아가신 상태였고 가까운 친척들에게 전화를 돌려봐도 어머니의 행방은 찾을 수 없었고 며칠 후 아주 비밀리에 조사를 받는 어머니의 위치를 확인할 수 있었습니다.
Then one day, I heard the shocking news that my mother, a manager of a specialties restaurant in Pyongyang, was taken to the Social Security Bureau while headed to a meeting in the district. My father, who was a state security officer, had already passed away, so I could not contact my father. I called my close relatives, but could not find out about my mother's whereabouts. A few days later, I was able to find out the location of where my mother was under investigation, in secret.
당시 어머니가 운영하던 식당은 외화 식당은 아니었지만 손님이 많기로 소문나 있었습니다. 경영을 위한 필수 조건이 직원 관리임을 늘 강조했던 어머니였기에 직원들이 월급과 배급을 정해진 날에 무조건 주는 것을 원칙으로 세웠다고 합니다. 이런 지배인을 직원들은 어머니처럼 따랐고 매상을 올리는 것으로 보답했다고 합니다.
The restaurant that my mother managed was not the foreign currency making restaurant, but her restaurant still attracted many, many customers, as my mother had always emphasized that the prerequisite for management was employees management. She followed the principles that employees' salaries and distribution should be given on a set day with no excuses. As a result, her employees followed my mother as if she were their own mother, and the employees returned my mother's favor by raising sales.
이를 시샘하고 질투하던 주변 상인들이 특산물 식당 종업원들이 수령님보다 지배인을 더 따르는 것 같다. 어느 명절날엔 수령님 선물보다 더 값비싼 선물 꾸러미를 받아들고 지배인 만세까지 외쳤다라며 어머니를 고발했다는 것이었습니다. 어머니를 해임하기 위해 사법검찰은 있는지 없는지를 만들어냈고 그 일로 어머니는 보안성 조사실에서 갖은 고생을 다 하셨습니다.
Neighboring merchants who were jealous of my mother falsely accused her, implying that the restaurant employees follow the manager more than our suryong, the leaders. One holiday, the manager received a gift package that was more expensive than the suryong's, the leader's gift, and the employees even chanted, "Long live the manager." To dismiss my mother from her position, prosecutors falsely accused my mother. She went through all the hardships in the Social Security investigation room.
어머니 죄를 더 부각하기 위해 개인 식당을 하던 저도 40일간 인질로 보안성에 끌려갔고 그곳에서 저는 시장에서 장사했다는 이유로 억울하게 당하는 북한 여성들을 보게 되었습니다. 결국 여성들이 만들어가는 장마당에서 일어나는 모든 일이 북한 정권이 내세우는 행정처벌법을 기준으로 범죄가 된다는 것을 알게 되었고 정권에 대한 반감이 생겨났습니다.
I was also taken to the Social Security Bureau as a hostage for 40 days. So the prosecutors could further highlight my mother's crime. There, I saw North Korean women being unjustly charged for doing business in the market. Eventually, I learned that everything that happened the market that North Korean women did was a crime according to the administrative punishment law on the NK regime. My antipathy towards the North Korea regime started to arise.
양강도 출장 중에 어머니는 아버지 후배로부터 보안성에서 식당을 감시한다는 것을 알게 되었고 간부들은 꼬리 자르기로 어머니 희생을 요구했습니다. 당에 바친 50년을 통탄하던 어머니께 이젠 그만 노동당을 잊어야 한다고 말했고 우리 모녀는 모든 것을 포기하고 채 녹지 않은 압록강에 살얼음을 깨면서 국경을 넘었습니다. 그리고 대한민국 국민이 되었습니다.
Okay. During a business trip to Yangon province, my mother learned from my father's colleague that the Social Security Bureau had been monitoring her restaurant. The elite demanded her sacrifice to avoid any blame on them. I told mother, who deplored that she devoted herself to the party for 50 years, that we should forget about the Workers' Party of North Korea from now on. My mother and I gave up everything, what we had, and crossed the border, breaking the thin ice of Yalu River. Then, after taking a journey halfway around the world, we became a citizen of the Republic of Korea.
하지만 여러분, 저는 지금 그 겨울 압록강을 건너다 동상을 입어 손톱 발톱이 다 뽑혔고 메콩강을 건너다 탈북의 길에서 악어를 만났던 순간을 이야기하려고 이 자리에 서 있는 것은 아닙니다. 또 한때 잘 나갔다는 제 개인적인 이야기를 전하려 함도 아니고 본의 아니게 불행을 당한 제 어머니의 억울함을 호소하려 함도 아닙니다.
Yet, everyone here. I am not here to talk about the moment I faced a crocodile crossing the Mekong River, on the moment I suffered from crossing the Yalu River, getting frostbite, losing all my toes and fingernails. Further, I'm not trying to tell you my personal story of how well I once did in North Korea, nor do I try to plead for the injustice my mother had to endure.
제가 미국에서 또 유엔 여성위원회에서 북한의 시장에 관해 증언한다고 이야기했을 때 어머니는 그 소중한 시간에 내 이야기로 시간을 낭비하지 말고 북조선 여성들이 시장에서 어떻게 가족의 삶을 지켜냈는지를 이야기하면 좋겠구나. 저들이 바라는 게 무엇이고 세상 사람들에게 하고 싶은 이야기가 무엇인지를 가슴 깊이 생각해 보길 바란다라고 말씀하셨습니다.
When I told my mother that I would be testifying at the UN CSW and in Washington, D.C., just like Congressional Forum, about North Korean market, my mother said, it would be good if you did not waste a precious time talking about your story. Instead, tell the world how North Korean women are provided for their families in the market. I hope you think deeply about what they wanted and what they wanted to share with the world.
그래서 다시 바라본 북한의 시장은 21세기 모순 그 자체였습니다. 2002년 북한은 7월 1일 경제관리 개선 조치를 발표했고 이듬해인 2003년 3월엔 종합시장 상설화를 골자로 한 내각 조치 제24호를 발표했습니다. 이에 따라 한적한 산기슭이나 공설운동장 한쪽 구석에 자리 잡고 있던 기존 11장은 사라졌고 국가가 개입한 일일 시장의 합법화가 이루어졌습니다.
I thought about North Korean market again. And my conclusion was that North Korean market was the contradiction of the 21st century. In 2001, North Korea announced that the July 1st economic management improvement measures, and the following year, in March 2003, it announced Cabinet Measure number 21, which aimed to establish a general market. As a result, the existing 10-day market, which was located at the city, at the tiny corner of the public playground or the foot of the secluded mountain, just disappeared. And the legalization of the state intervened one-day market was achieved.
이 같은 사실이 세상에 알려지자 사람들은 이제 북한이 자본주의 요소인 시장을 받아들였다. 앞으로 자본주의 꽃인 자본을 중시하는 세상으로 북한이 바뀔 것이라고 이야기했습니다. 스위스에서 유학 생활을 했다는 김정은이 화려한 복장과 조명, 미국의 만화영화 미키 마우스 캐릭터를 배경으로 한 모란봉 악단을 대동하고 나왔을 땐 북조선 인민들조차 이런 그림을 못 보고 산 지난 세월을 아쉬워했습니다.
When this became known to the world, North Koreans said, North Korea has finally accepted the market, a capitalist element. North Korea in turn into a country that varies capital as the flower of the capitalism, and the country will be transformed. When Kim Jong-un, who studied in Switzerland, and came out with the Moranbong band, decorated with the colorful costumes and lighting, and then character of the American animation Mickey Mouse in the background. All North Koreans regretted the past year of living without seeing such a show.
하지만 시간이 지남에 따라 이 모든 게 세상 사람들을 속이기 위한 김정은이 계략이고 눈속임이라는 게 드러나게 되었습니다. 종합시장 상설화를 두고도 김정은은 말끝마다 땅과 국가의 배려라고 말하고 있지만 시장에서 팔고 사는 주요 물품인 식량과 생필품은 지금까지 국가가 공헌해오던 주민 배급과 공급이 주된 항목들이었습니다.
Over time, it turned out that as all this was Kim Jong-un's stratagem and tricks to deceive the world. Kim Jong-un said that the establishment of general market was the consideration of the party and the state. However, food and daily necessary items, which are always in the main items sold and bought in the market, were supposed to be the main items of North Korea's touted ration system.
국가에서 책임지겠다고 하던 식량 배급이 중단되고 사람들이 무리로 굶어 죽게 되자 이제 너희들끼리 알아서 식량도 사고 생필품도 구매해야 한다고 만들어 놓은 게 이른바 북한의 종합시장입니다. 현재 400여 개가 넘는 북한의 종합시장이야말로 김정일, 김정은의 배려에 의한 것이 아니라 북한 여성들이 자신의 삶을 지키기 위해 피땀으로 일군 인민의 자산임을 강조하고 싶습니다.
The so-called North Korea's general market was created to allow North Koreans to buy food and daily necessary items on their own. Since the state ration system, which the state was supposed to be responsible for, stopped for functioning, and the people starved to death, I would like to emphasize that more than 400 general markets in North Korea are not a result of Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un's consideration. Rather, the general market is the asset of the people that North Korean women with their blood and sweat to protect their lives.
종합시장의 모순과 아이러니는 시장에 대한 당국의 통제와 간섭에도 드러나고 있는 바 돈이 없으면 운영할 수 없는 장마당에서 돈 있는 사람이 처벌되고 돈 많은 사람이 죄인이 되어 감옥에 끌려가는 세상이 북한입니다. 역사에서 실패가 증명된 사회주의 원칙과 기준으로 자본주의 꽂힌 시장을 장악 통제하겠다는 북한의 어리석음이 여실히 드러나는 대목이 아닐 수 없습니다.
The contradictions and ironies of the general market are also evident in the North Korean government control and interference in the market. North Korea is a place where the rich who are active in the market are punished. But the market is a place where it cannot operate without money. And the rich are considered criminals and taken to prison. North Korea's foolishness to seize and control the kernel of capitalism, the market, is clearly revealed through the principles and standards of socialism that have proven failures throughout history.
존경하는 여러분, 2300만 북한 주민들이 삶과 연계된 북한의 시장은 있고 또 있어야 함을 호소합니다. 더하여 북한의 시장이 살아남을 수 있는 유일한 길은 북한 정권이 사회주의를 포기하고 자본주의 시장 경제를 활성화하는 것뿐임을 다시 한번 강조하면서 저희 이야기를 마칩니다. 경청해 주셔서 감사합니다. Thank you.
Honorable ladies and gentlemen present here, I appeal to you that North Korea's market, which is directly linked to the lives of 23 million North Koreans, must be preserved. Furthermore, I conclude my remarks by emphasizing once again that the only way for the market to survive is for the Kim Jong-un regime to abandon socialism and revitalize the capitalist market economy. Thank you very much for your attentive listening. Before she starts to speak, I just say my personal note. I have been living in the United States for a long time, but it's very hard to get rid of my charming East Asian accent. Please forgive me for that.
북한이 평범한 아줌마였던 제가 온 세상 사람들이 이목이 집중되는 이곳 유엔과 서울의 수도 워싱턴의 높은 연단에 서게 될 줄은 꿈에도 몰랐습니다. 미국은 나쁜 놈, 미국에 추종하는 유엔엔 더 나쁜 놈들이 있다는 교육을 받아왔기에 지금도 마음은 두근거리지만 그래도 용기를 내어 북한 장마당 이야기를 해보려고 합니다.
As an ordinary North Korean woman, I never thought that I would stand on a platform at the United Nations where the people of the world focus their attention. And in Washington, D.C. Growing up in North Korea, I was taught that U.S. is an evil actor and the UN, which follows the U.S., is even worse. Although I am very nervous, I will tell my story about North Korean's market, so-called 장마당.
그리고 이야기를 시작하기 전에 북한 시장의 평범한 아줌마들을 북한 현실을 용기 있게 말하는 북한 인권운동가로 내세워준 북한 자주연합의 수잔 솔티 회장께 감사를 드리고 싶습니다. 수잔 솔티 회장님 감사합니다.
Before I begin my story, I would like to thank Dr. Sujan Shorty, chair of the North Korean Freedom Coalition, for helping common North Korean women like me who participate in the Jangmadang to become a human rights activist, to courageously speak about the reality of North Korea. Thank you, Chair Shorty.
저는 자유를 찾아 2019년 4월 압록강을 넘어 대한민국에 온 배유진입니다. 저는 양강도 해산시에서 출생하여 이민학교, 중학교를 거쳐 해산예술대학에서 성악을 전공하였습니다. 제가 대학을 졸업하던 1996년은 당시 북한이 고난의 행군으로 어려운 시기였습니다.
My name is Bae Eugene. I arrived in South Korea in April 2019 for freedom after crossing the Yalu River. I was born in Haesan, Yangang Province. After elementary and middle schools, I attended Haesan Arts College and majored in vocal music. In 1996, the year I graduated from college was during the Arduous March in North Korea.
갑자기 배급이 끊어지고 먹을 것을 찾아 여기저기 떠돌아다니는 사람들이 날로 늘어났고 제가 살던 곳은 국경연선 지역이라 압록강 기슭에 나와 하염없이 중국 땅을 바라보는 타곳에 몰려온 사람들과 아침이면 여기저기 널려있는 시체들, 말로는 다 표현할 수 없었습니다.
Suddenly, the state ration system stopped, and the number of people wandering around looking for food increased day by day. I lived in a border area along the Yalu River. I saw many North Koreans from different regions stand by the Yalu River, gazing endlessly at the Chinese side. I witnessed so many dead bodies on the streets every morning. I cannot fully express how that the situation was so horrible.
저는 대학을 졸업했지만 나라 형편이 그 지경이라 바로 결혼하게 되었고 생활전선이라는 그 어마어마한 전투마당에 들어서게 되었습니다.
After I finished college, I was married right away because North Korea was such a terrible situation. I entered an enormous battlefield to support my family.
정말 그때는 총포소문은 하나의 전쟁 마당과 같았습니다. 매일매일 사람들이 죽어나가고 역전과 마을 외딴 곳엔 시체들이 쌓이기 시작했습니다. 그래서 저는 오직 돈을 벌어야 한다는 생각으로 그 무엇을 가리지 않았던 것 같습니다.
The reality of the time was like a battlefield without gunfire. Every day, people were dying. Bodies began to pile up in front of train stations, remote areas of the villages. I thought nothing will stop me to earn money and survive.
당시 저희 남편이 진짜 금과 가짜 금을 가려내는 기술이 있었으므로 금을 사서 중국으로 몰래 넘겨 돈을 버는 금밀수가 저희 첫 장사였습니다. 전국 각지에서 몰려오는 금을 순도에 맞게 구매하고 중국에 넘겨 팔면 제법 큰 이윤이 생겼습니다.
My first business was smuggling gold, or to secretly exporting to China. Because back then, my husband had to know, had some special skills to sort real versus fake gold. Purchasing gold from all over North Korea according to the fineness or purity of quality and selling to China allowed me to gain a pretty big profit.
북한에서 개인이 채굴한 금이 국경지역으로 올 수밖에 없었던 이유는 당시 북한 은행에서도 금은 수매를 받고 있었지만 시장 가격과 비교하면 말도 안 되는 국정 가격이었으므로 전국에서 개인이 채굴한 수많은 금은 국경지역으로 모여졌다가 중국으로 팔릴 수밖에 없었습니다.
The reason for the transport of gold mined throughout North Korea to the border area was as follows. Although North Korean banks purchase gold and silver, they offer the ridiculously low government fee, almost free, compared to the market price. As a result, gold mined by people from all over North Korea gathered in the border area to be sold to China.
그렇지만 북한에선 개인이 금을 채취하는 것도 판매하는 것도 특히 중국에 밀수하는 것은 엄청난 불법이었기에 이를 숨기기 위해 담배, 식품, 록화기 등 다양한 물건으로 위장하기 시작했습니다.
However, in North Korea, it was highly illegal for individuals to collect and sell and smuggle gold into China. In order to cover this up, many people began to disguise their gold trade with various items such as cigarette, food, and tape recorder.
금밀수를 숨기기 위해 시작한 위장 물건 판매에서도 이윤이 많이 났지만 텃밭의 농토산물, 집에서 만든 술과 맥주, 여기에 더해 시장 한쪽 귀퉁이에서 운영하던 자전거 땜빵에서도 많은 이윤을 보는 사람들이 늘어나기 시작했습니다.
There was also a profit in the sale of items that I sold to cover up my gold smuggling and trade. More and more people began to make profit from selling farm product from their gardens and homemade alcohol and beer. Bike tire repair shops too also profitable at the corner of the 장마당 marketplace.
돈 되는 것이면 무엇이나 한다. 고양이 뿔 내놓고 없는 것이 없다는 북한 시장은 곧 시장 경제가 무색할 만큼 갖가지 물건이 나와 거래되기 시작했고 끝내는 북한 당국이 그렇게 통제하던 남한 드라마며 USB에 담긴 남조선 노래, 미국 액션 영화까지 등장해 불티나게 팔리기 시작했습니다.
In the North Korean market, it was said that people will do whatever to make money, and there was anything in the market except a cat's horn. It soon started to trade various items resembling the capitalist market economy. Eventually, South Korean dramas and music on flash drives, as well as American action movies that were strictly prohibited by the North Korean government, became hot commodities in the market.
제가 장마당에서 몰래 구입해 처음으로 접한 한국 드라마는 가을 동화, 천국의 계단, 내자매 이야기, 유리구두 등 상상할 수 없던 세상을 소개하는 것들이었고 저희 남편이 몰래 본 미국 영화 중엔 타이타닉, 탑건, 람보 등이 있었습니다.
The first South Korean dramas I bought secretly from the 장마당 were Autumn in My Heart, Stairway to Heaven, Four Seasons, and Glass Slippers. These shows introduced me to a world totally beyond my imagination. Some of the American action movies that my husband secretly watched were Titanic, Top Gun, and Rambo.
매일 새로운 드라마들을 과일 박스 속에 숨겨 중국을 통해 북한으로 들여왔지만 한국 드라마를 접한 북한 주민들의 수요는 날로 늘어나 그 수요를 충족하기에는 한계가 있었습니다.
Every day, new dramas were hidden in fruit boxes and brought into North Korea through China. However, the demand of North Koreans who already experienced South Korean dramas increased day by day. We were limited to satisfy their growing demand.
이를 충족시키기 위해 개인들은 중국에서 CD 복사기를 몰래 구매하여 집에서 복사본을 만들어 판매하기 시작했고 저는 그들이 요구하는 빈 CD를 중국에서 들여와 판매하기 시작했습니다. 이렇게 장사의 폭은 하나둘 넓어지고 돈이 쌓여가는 재미를 보게 되었습니다.
To meet their needs, North Koreans secretly purchased a CD copier from China to produce copies at home. I started to import blank CDs the customers requested from China. The scope of my business started to expand to enjoy accumulation of wealth.
그렇게 고난의 행군을 통하여 개인 불법 장사가 활성화되고 한류 문화가 전국 각지에 퍼지자 북한 정권은 주황당 검열단, 보위사령부 검열단을 파견해 시장에 대한 통제를 강화하기 시작했습니다.
As illegal private business became prosperous through the 장마당 and the South Korean Hallyu culture spread throughout the country, North Korean government began to tighten its grip on the market by dispatching inspectors from the Central Party and State Security Ministry.
시장에서 불법 행위를 했더라는 사람들, 특히 CD와 USB를 복사해 암거래하던 사람들은 감옥에 가고 추방당하고 심지어 공개 처형당하는 사태가 벌어졌습니다. 이런 상황에서 잘못 걸리면 큰일 난다는 생각에 사이즈가 크고 제일 좋은 집으로 이사를 갔고 이후엔 위험한 물건을 피해 나름대로 안정적인 장사로 생계를 꾸려나갔습니다.
Those who committed illegal activities in the market, especially those who copied the CDs and flash drives to sell in the black market, or imprisoned, deported, and even executed in public. In this situation, I moved to a relative's house as I thought I may find myself in danger if I ever got caught. I started to make a living by more secure business by avoiding dangerous items.
나름대로 안정적인 장사란 중국 물건을 들여와 국경 지역의 장마당에 판매하는 것이었습니다. 금과 은, 남조선 드라마를 복사하여 파는 것보다 덜 위험한 것이었으며 때로는 국경 경비대원들을 끼고 압록강을 도강하거나 공식적으로 세관을 통과해 북한 상류층들이 바라는 온갖 물건을 시장에 내놓았습니다.
Secure business meant importing Chinese goods and selling them in the market along the border. It was less dangerous than making copies of South Korean dramas or selling gold or silver. Sometimes I had to bribe border guards to cross the Yalu River. Other times I officially went through North Korean customs to sell the items that North Korean elites wanted in the market.
개인 재산이 허용되지 않는 북한에서 하루도 마음 편히 쉬는 날이 없었고 하루를 쉬면 열흘을 굶는다는 정신으로 앞만 보며 살았습니다. 가족을 지키고 자식을 키우고 예물을 바치기 위해서는 돈이 필요했고 돈을 벌기 위해서는 뭐든지 해야 했습니다.
In North Korea, where private property was not allowed, I could not even have a day to freely rest. I lived with the mentality that if I took a day off, I would starve for 10 days. I needed money to protect my family, raise my children, and pay bribes. I had to do anything to make money and to support my family.
한국의 중고옷 판매로 이득을 벌 수 있다고 하면 중고벌도 수입하여 판매했고 중국에서 통나무 수출을 요구하면 통나무도 중국에 옮기고 약초도 넘기는 등 못해본 일이 없었던 것 같습니다. 그러다 보니 소문난 큰손이 되어 있었고 먹잇감을 찾는 북한 사법감찰이 감시망에 들게 되었습니다.
When I learned that I could make profit by selling used South Korean clothing, I imported them to sell in the market. Also, in North Korea, Foreign Currency Earning Bureau demanded export of logs, lumbers, and I handed over logs and mountain herbs to China. I think I did literally everything to make profit. As a result, I became a well-known big hand or a prosperous businesswoman. That put me on a watch list of North Korean prosecutors looking for prey.
돛을 쳐놓고 있다가 중국을 자유자재로 넘나들며 차판으로 물건을 실어 나르던 인간, 공화국법을 어겨가며 장마당 질서를 교란시키는 인간이란 딱지를 붙잡아가는데 이럴 땐 평소에 통하던 예물도 필요 없었고 돈 받고 뒤를 봐주던 보안원들은 연기처럼 사라져버렸습니다.
After a trap was set by the prosecutors, the market sellers were held under the label of who freely crossed China and carried illegal goods and or who disrupted the Changmadang order in violation of North Korean law. In these cases, bribes no longer worked. The State and Social Security Ministry officers who could be bribed and promised security suddenly disappeared like smoke.
생각만 해도 몸서리치는 2011년 12월 10일 추운 겨울날 북한 검찰은 저에게 있지도 않은 온갖 죄를 들시어 비사회주의자란 딱지를 씌워 재산을 몰수하는 처분을 내리고 저희 온 가족을 깊은 시골에 추방시켰습니다.
On a cold winter day on December 10th, 2011, the day I do not wish to remember, the prosecutors accused me of all kinds of crimes that I did not commit, labeling me as an anti-socialist, and confiscated all my property and deported my entire family to the remote countryside.
지금 생각하기에도 당시 저희 죄는 열심히 돈을 번 것뿐이었습니다. 잠도 제대로 못 자고 남보다 10배, 20배 몸을 혹사시키며 재산을 만든 것이 죄라면 죄인데 북한 당국은 저희 전 재산을 빼앗아 버렸습니다. 그리고 돈 있고 재산을 모았다는 말도 아닌 죄 때문에 저는 범죄자가 되어 추방당하는 꼴이 되었습니다.
Even now, I still remember that my only crime was simply doing my best to earn money. What I did was to create private assets by working 10 or 20 times harder than others, overworking my body without any sleep. North Korean government took everything away from me, calling what I did was a crime. I was deported as a criminal due to my unlikely crime of having money and accumulating wealth.
그렇게 당했지만 그곳에서 태어나 자라면서 받은 교과서의 가르침대로 정의는 살아있다고 믿었고 억울한 제 사연을 장문의 글로 써서 노동장중앙위원회와 김정은에게 보내기도 했습니다. 하지만 무문구답이었고 시간이 갈수록 자신이 어리석었다는 결론에 도달했습니다.
Although I was wrongly accused, I still believed that justice was alive, as a North Korean textbook taught me while growing up in North Korea. I wrote a long letter to the Central Committee of the Workers' Party and even Kim Jong-un about my unfair case. However, I did not get any response and came to the conclusion that I was being naive as time passed.
그래서 장마당에서 장사한 채밖에 없던 자신을 증명하느라 8년이라는 세월을 보냈고 찾은 결론은 이 땅에 정의가 없다는 것이었습니다. 더하여 국가가 허락한 장마당이지만 그곳에 진정한 시장의 자유도 없다고 생각하였습니다.
I spent 8 years trying to prove my innocence that all I did was to do business in the market. Later, I concluded that there was no justice in North Korea. I further thought to myself that although the 장마당 was allowed by the North Korean government, there was no genuine market system.
그래서 택한 것이 탈북이었습니다. 북한을 떠나던 그날 한 가정의 어머니로서 가족의 생계를 책임져야 했고 시장을 통해 남보다 더 좋은 삶의 터전을 마련하기 위해 불철주야 뛰어다닌 것이 제가 된 이 세상이 너무도 얼마나 원망스러웠던지 모릅니다.
Therefore, I decided to defect from North Korea. On the day of leaving North Korea, as a mother of a family, I was extremely resentful of the world of North Korea. It was a place where it was a crime to take responsibility for my family's livelihood and work extremely hard to better provide for my family through the market.
한편으론 기하급수적으로 늘어나는 남조선 드라마나 음악에 대한 대중의 수요를 충족시키고 그들이 돈이 되는 세상에서 CD를 굽고 USB를 복사한 것이 자본주의 사상을 유포시킨 범죄가 되는 세상을 원망하고 또 원망하며 그 저주의 땅을 떠나 대한민국 국민이 되었습니다.
I left the cursed land of North Korea to become a citizen of Republic of Korea. I deeply resented the world of North Korea, where trying to meet rapidly growing needs of South Korean dramas and music and copying CDs and flash drives to make profit become a crime of spreading capitalist ideas.
그렇게 자유의 땅 대한민국에서 행복한 삶을 누리고 있는 우리 가정은 인생 최고의 선택이 탈북이었다고 자랑스럽게 말하고 있습니다. 그리고 철책 없는 감옥에서 오늘도 무권리하고 굶주린 삶을 살아가고 있는 고향 사람들을 위해 보람 있는 삶을 살아가야 한다고 다짐하곤 합니다.
Our family is now enjoying a happy life in South Korea, the land of freedom. We can proudly say the best decision we made in life was to defect from North Korea. I often remind myself that I need to lead a meaningful life for my fellow North Koreans who still live without any the rights and starving in a prison without bars.
끝으로 배급제가 붕괴된 북한 땅에서 시장이야말로 주민들이 살아갈 수 있는 유일한 삶의 터전임을 말하고 싶습니다. 시장을 시장의 론리에 맡기지 않고 당국의 통제와 기준에 따르게 한다면 북한은 또다시 암흑의 땅으로 변하게 될 것이며 굶어 죽어가는 사람이 속출하게 된다는 것을 강조하고 싶습니다.
In conclusion, I want to say that Changmadang, the marketplace, is the only space of life for people to sustain their lives in North Korea, where state ration system has collapsed. I would like to emphasize that if the Changmadang market is not left to the logic of the market system and follows the regulations and standards of the North Korean regime, the North Korea will turn into a dark land again, and many North Koreans will starve to death. Thank you very much for your attention.
경청해 주셔서 감사합니다.
Sujan, can I have the water, please? Have a drink some water.
요거 수정했으니까 요걸로 하래요.
맞아.
네.
이거 했어요?
이게 내 건데 이거 정도로 수정한 게 있거든요. 그러니까 이게
아니, 이게 가장 수정한 건데.
같은 건데 여기 보면 저렇게 수정을 해가지고 이런 데네.
제가 알아서 할게요. 잠깐만 좀 물 좀 마시고.
이런 것들을 수정했는데. 안녕하세요. 예. 이 자리에 계신 외국의 벗들, 유엔 여성위원회 북한 여성들의 마음을 담아 감사의 인사를 드립니다.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to thank our friends around the world, including the UNCSW and the North Korea Freedom Coalition and the Defense Forum Foundation on behalf of North Korean women.
제가 아버지한테 들은 이야기지만 정권 수립 초기 북한에 3일장, 5일장 형식의 재래식 시장이 있었다고 합니다. 그러다가 1969년 김일성이 농민시장의 필요성을 인정하면서 11장이 생겨나고 80년대 후반까지 농민들이 텃밭에서 갖춘 채소며 광주리 따위를 팔고 있는 한가한 시장이 운영되었습니다. 이때는 물론 당국에서 식량도 생활 필수품도 공급해 주던 때여서 사람들은 삶에서 시장의 큰 의미가 없었다고 합니다.
As I heard from my father, there was a traditional market in North Korea in the early days of the Kim Il-sung's regime in the form of a 3-day or 5-day market. Then, in 1969, when Kim Il-sung recognized a need for farmers' market, 10-day market was established. Until the 1980s, what was termed the sluggish market was opened, where farmers were allowed to sell homemade baskets and vegetables grown from their gardens. Since this was the time when North Korean government supplied food and necessary items to the people. Market did not mean much.
그렇게 한적하고 평화롭던 시장의 분위기가 바뀌기 시작한 것은 1990년대 중반부였습니다. 지역에 따라 차이는 있었지만 제가 살던 양강도에서는 1992년부터 식량 배급이 중단되었고 월급과 생활품 등 국가로부터 모든 공급이 끊어져 버렸습니다. 평생 국가로부터 배급과 공급이 우선에 살던 주민들은 당황스러워했고 어떤 이런 주민들에 의해 당국은 미제와 남조선 기래도당의 경제 봉쇄 때문에 조국이 겪는 일시적 고통이라고 선전했습니다.
It was in the mid-1990s that the atmosphere of such a peaceful and sluggish market began to change. Although these were regional differences, Yangon province, where I lived, stopped the ration system in 1992. All supplies from the North Korean government, including salaries and daily necessary items, were cut off. North Koreans who relied on the government ration system for their entire lives were perplexed. The North Korean government propagated that they were going through, what they are going through was a temporary suffering caused by economic sanctions imposed by the U.S. and South Korean puppet state.
당시 저뿐 아니라 많은 북한 주민들은 당연히 나라 사정이 잠시 나빠진 것이라고 생각했고 허리띠를 절라매고 이 일시적 고난을 이겨내면 나라 형편이 좋아지고 우리의 삶도 정상으로 돌아올 것이라고 철석같이 믿었습니다. 하지만 배구를 다시 준다는 건 말뿐이었고 사람이 굶어 죽는다는 소문이 나기 시작하더니 역전과 마을 곳곳에서 굶어 죽는 사람들이 시체가 보이기 시작했습니다.
At the time, many North Koreans, including myself, thought the situation in North Korea got worse for a brief moment. We believed wholeheartedly that if we tighten our belts and overcome the temporary hardship, the situation will improve and our lives will return to normalcy. However, the government never resumed its ration system. Rumors began to spread that people were dying of starvation. We started to witness the dead bodies of those who perished due to starvation at train stations and villages.
이러다 굶어 죽을 수도 있다는 생각이 온습했고 공포에 질린 사람들이 시장으로 몰려들기 시작했습니다. 마지막 남은 옥수수 한 말로 술을 빚어 장마당에 가족 나오는 사람이 있는가 하면 콩 한 말로 두부를 만들어내오는 사람, 산에서 솔방울 주워다 땔감을 파는 사람도 있었습니다. 신발 공장에 다니는 사람들은 공장에서 신발을 훔쳐 팔고 의료기관 종사자들은 병원에 약을 팔고 학용품 공장에 다니는 사람들은 책과 연필을 시장에 들고 나왔습니다.
I feared that I might also starve to death. Many people in fear started to flock to the market. Some people made alcohol with the last remaining 4 pounds of corn, made tofu with 4 pounds of soybeans, or sold pine cones gathered from mountain as firewood. Those who worked at the shoe factories sold stolen shoes. Those who worked at the medical institutions sold stolen medicines from hospitals. Those who worked at the shoe supply factories sold stolen shoes and stolen the books and pencils in the market.
처음엔 이런 사람들이 비난의 대상이 되기도 했지만 점차 시간이 지나면서 시장의 물건은 음식, 의약품과 생활품을 판매하고 구매하는 사람들로 붐비기 시작하더니 거지, 강도, 도둑, 장사꾼, 지역 주민들이 서로 엉키면서 난장판이 되어버렸습니다. 기존 장마당의 모습은 찾아볼 수 없었고 시장 안팎은 발 디딜 틈 없이 사람들을 빼고 했지만 시장의 활성화됨을 따라 굶어 죽는 사람들이 줄었다는 건 분명해 보였습니다.
At first, these people were subject of blame, but over time, the market began to be crowded with people selling and purchasing goods, food, medicines, and daily necessary items. Later, the market became a place of confusion and disorder where local beggars, robbers, thieves, and vendors were all tangled up. The old, peaceful, and sluggish market was long gone. As the market was filled with people, it seemed clear to me that fewer people died of starvation as the market became active.
당시 저는 북중 국경지대인 양강도 직물공장 노동자였고 결혼도 해 가정도 이루었습니다. 신혼초 부모집에서 살아야 했던 때였는데 마을을 휩쓸었던 굶주림은 저희 집이라고 피해가지 않았습니다. 온 가족이 죽 한 끼로 유명하던 그때 장마당에 이런 소문이 돌았습니다. 말이 통하는 중국 조선족 장사꾼들이 압록강을 나와 북한산 해산물과 쌀을 맞바꾸고 있었는데 장마당보다 훨씬 이윤이 남는다는 것이었습니다. 장사가 무엇이고 이윤이 또 무엇인지 잘 알지 못했지만 해산물로 중국인들에게 넘겨주고 다음에 알루미늄과 구리를 모아 쌀과 바꾸기 시작했습니다.
At that time, I was a laborer at the textile mill in Yangon province near the Chinese border. I was also married with a family. In the beginning of my marriage, I had to live with my parents at their house. The rampant starvation that swept through the village also affected my home. As my entire family was barely sustaining our lives with one small bowl of porridge per day, I heard a rumor. The rumor was that Korean Chinese merchant who spoke Korean came to the Yalu River to trade North Korean seafood for rice. And this business was much more profitable than the 장마당. Although I did not comprehend the concept of running a business and making profits, I started to trade North Korean seafood with the Chinese, and later I started to trade aluminum pots and copper for rice.
그렇게 집안이 가재독을 넘겨주고 맞바꾼 중국산 쌀과 옥수수 덕에 우리 가족은 굶어 죽지 않았고 저는 더 욕심을 전국에서 몰려드는 파동이나 알루미늄으로 헐값을 구매해 중국인들에 넘겨주는 이른바 밀수의 길에 뛰어들었습니다. 난생 처음 중국이 위안화를 만들 수 있었고 그 돈을 들고 시장에 가면 무엇이나 살 수 있는 희한한 세상을 맛보게 되었습니다.
Because of Chinese rice and corn, which I traded for my household goods, my family did not starve to death. Thus, I officially jumped onto the path so-called smuggling, for I thought copper or aluminum from all of North Korea at the cheaper price to trade with Chinese. For the first time in my life, I earned Chinese yuan. As a result, I encountered an amazing world where I could buy anything when I went to the market with the yuan.
하지만 이런 일을 하려면 국경을 지키는 군인은 물론 안전함과 보위원, 검열기관의 단속원들에게 뇌물을 줘야 하고 또 뇌물을 준다 해서 이른바 북한 당국이 말하는 불법을 피해갈 수 없다는 것을 늘 의식하고 살아야만 했습니다. 그렇게 버는 것보다 뇌물로 바치는 돈이 더 많아지고 고심하던 어느 날 저희 아버지가 저를 불러앉혔습니다. 평생 당과 조국을 위해 헌신하며 살아온 내가 집안에서 벌어지는 밀수 행위를 더는 위험해서 볼 수 없겠다고 강경하게 말씀하셨습니다.
However, to continue the business, I had to pay bribes to border guards, security guards, and government inspectors. I had to always be aware that bribery did not make my business legal. One day, when I was struggling with spending more on bribes than making profits, my father wanted to speak with me. My father told me, I can no longer watch the smuggling taking place in my household because it is very, very dangerous. I have been devoted to the Workers' Party of Korea and my country, DPRK, all my life.
그렇게 저는 이른바 밀수를 접었고 남들처럼 시장에 나가 가정의 생계를 책임져야 하겠다고 생각했습니다. 그때 저로서는 연로하신 부모님과 직장에 나가도 월급도 받지 못하는 남편과 1살짜리 딸, 8살짜리 조카가 있었습니다. 그나마 어머니가 집안 삶을 도와준다며 해바라기 씨를 팔고 계셨는데 하루 1kg, 국수 1kg도 살 수 없는 기막힌 장사였습니다. 제가 아니면 우리 6가족은 굶어 죽게 생긴 기막힌 상황이었습니다.
I thus gave up my smuggling business, thinking that I should participate in the market like everyone else and provide for my family. Then I had to provide for my parents, my husband, who was not getting paid from his workplace, my 1-year-old daughter, and my 8-year-old nephew. My mother was selling sunflower seeds to help providing for our family. Yet it was a worthless business since we could not even buy 1 kilogram of noodles a day. It was harsh environment where 6 of our family members could starve to death if I did not participate in the market.
그래서 처음 시작한 장사가 사탕과 과자를 파는 장사였습니다. 당국이 자릿세를 받고 내어준 40cm 정도의 크기의 물건도 제대로 넣을 수 없는 아주 작은 어려운 자판이었지만 그것은 저희 생계와 가족을 위한 삶의 전투장이었습니다. 그런 거죠. 전투장.
그건 뺄 거예요?
네, 네.
That is why I started selling candies and snacks. Although I only had about 40 centimeter wide stand, a very small size, not even enough to display my items. The market was a battleground for me and my family to survive. Of course, North Korean government allotted the stand to me after receiving a seat tax.
한 살이 갓 지난 딸내를 얻고 장사를 하다 보니 여름에는 더워서 울고 겨울에는 추워서 울곤 했습니다. 저녁에 집에 돌아오면 기저귀를 차고 있던 딸에는 사타구니가 빨갛게 달아도 못해 피부가 벗겨서 보이셨고 어떤 곳에는 진물까지 흘러났으며 그때마다 아이는 숨 넘어가는 소리를 지르며 울곤 했지만 그것을 보는 저의 마음은 몹시 아팠습니다.
As I ran my business with 1-year-old daughter on my back, she often cried in the summer due to hotness and then cried in the winter due to coldness. When I returned home in the evening, my daughter's bottom in diaper area was chapped red and with her skin peeled and festers. Since I could not afford medicine for her, I put face powder on my daughter's affected area. Every time I did, she cried out loud.
그러던 어느 날 저에게 귀인이 나타났습니다. 북한의 경제난을 기회로 중국 장사꾼들이 북한 시장을 진출하기 시작했는데 친척 방문과 사서 여행을 빌미로 북한에 진출한 저들은 시장 내 파트너를 몰색했고 제가 어느 조선족 장사꾼이 파트너가 된 것이었습니다. 성실하고 열정 있는 사람이란 주변의 평가를 들었다면서 그가 다가왔을 때 나는 정말 세상을 얻은 기분이란 이런 것이구나 하고 느꼈습니다.
Then one day I met a benefactor. Chinese merchant began to enter the North Korean market with opportunities presented by the country's economic difficulties. And those who entered North Korea under the pretext to visit relatives or tours looked for business partners in the market. I eventually became a partner of a Korean Chinese trader. When he approached me saying that he was told that I was a diligent and passionate person, I felt like I won the whole world.
그는 저에게 시장의 논리를 알려준 사람이기도 했습니다. 돈이 들지 않고 북한 시장에 외상으로 물건을 내놓는 법도 알려주고 흡수하는 방식, 한 지역에만 머무르지 말고 지역 특산물을 훼손하기 위해 타 지역 상인들과 연계하고 이윤을 창출하는 등 평소에 생각조차 못한 일들이 그 상인이 알려줘 저는 그것을 목격할 수 있었습니다.
He was also the one who taught me about the market system. I could witness my business partner realize things that I would not normally think of, such as how to put things on credit for customers and recover them in the North Korean market, or to connect with the merchant in other places for the circulation of local specialties to generate a profit.
그때 저는 외상으로 받은 중국산 물건을 배낭에 메고 함흥, 청진, 어랑, 김책 등 가능 범위 내에 북한 지역을 돌아다녔고 상상도 할 수 없는 이윤을 창출해내기 시작했습니다. 한편으로 기차를 타고 전국을 다니면서 북한의 식량난, 경제난이 어느 정도 달했는지 집도 알 수 있었고 우리 동네에만 있은 줄 알았던 꽃제비와 강도들이 전국 곳곳에 넘쳐나고 죽어가는 것이 있다는 것을 알게 되었습니다.
For the first time, I carried Chinese goods received on credit in my backpacks and traveled to the different cities in North Korea, such as Hamhung, Cheongjin, Orang, and Kimchek, which led me to generate unimaginable profit. On the other hand, as I traveled around the country by train, I witnessed the impact of North Korea's food shortage. and economic crisis. I found out that 꽃제비, homeless children, thieves, who I thought were only in my village, were overflowing and dying all over the nation.
그런 비참한 현실 속에 나와 내 가족이 살아남을 수 있는 유일한 길이 장사라는 것을 다시금 깨닫습니다. 생소한 곳에서 물건을 팔고 구매하는 일도 어렵고 제대로 된 숙박 설비도 없는 북한에서 며칠간 먹고 자는 것도 어려웠지만 지역 장사꾼들이 인맥을 만들었고 저들의 집에서 먹고 자는 등 어려운 문제들을 풀어나갔습니다.
In such a miserable reality, I realized again that only way for my family to survive was through the market. Although it was difficult to sell and buy goods in unfamiliar places, dealing with lodging and having meals, I was able to make connections with local business people. With their help, I was able to solve these difficult challenges by staying at their homes.
지역마다 거래처를 두고 중국산 물건과 지역 특산물을 손쉽게 맞바꾸는 시스템도 만들어 놓았지만 역시나 확실하고 빠른 유통업을 만들어 시간을 단축하는 건 무엇보다 중요한 장사의 비결이었습니다. 그래서 저는 북한이 포함한 여성들은 자신이 직접 두 발로 뛰어다니면서 열차원들이나 열차 방송은, 보안원, 검열대 등 열차 종사자들에게 수수료를 주고 물건을 보내기 시작했고 지역 상인들이 역전이나 물건을 받아가는 시스템을 만들어 놓았습니다.
I also created a system to easily exchange Chinese goods with local specialties by having clients in each region. Creating an efficient and fast distribution network to shorten the time was the most important secret of my business. Instead of traveling with the goods, North Korean women, including myself, started to pay commissions to train attendants, the station broadcasters, and security guards to deliver goods and let local business partners to come to the station to pick up the goods.
과거의 북한에서는 상상도 할 수 없는 일이었지만 시장이 활성화될수록 상인들과 물건을 운반한 사람들이 간에 신뢰는 더욱 공고해졌고 여유가 생겨날수록 상인들 사이에 연대가 더욱 굳어져 갔습니다. 때문에 북한 시장판에선 돈이 있어도 신용이 없으면 장사하기 힘들다는 말도 나왔고 거래처와 신용만 있으면 돈을 얼마든지 벌 수 있다는 말도 나오게 되었습니다.
Though it was unimaginable in North Korea in the past, but as the market became more activated, the trust became merchant and carriers became stronger. Also, the solidarity between the merchant became stronger as well. For this reason, some market participants said even if you have money, it will be difficult to do business without good credibility. Others also concurred. You can make as much money as you want with your customers. You can make as much as you want with credibility.
그렇게 굶어 죽는 사람들의 시체를 보면서 가족의 죽음을 막으려고 장사를 시작한 여성들은 돈이 쌓여가는 기쁨을 알게 되었고 계획 경제만 주장한 북한에서 자본주의 계획 시장 경제의 꽃이라고 하는 돈의 맛이 알게 된 사람들이 늘어나기 시작했습니다.
North Korean women who initially started their trade to prevent families from dying by witnessing people who died of starvation learned the joy of accumulating wealth. Therefore, in North Korea, where only a planned economy was insisted, more people began to know the taste of money as the flower of the capitalist market economy.
하지만 시장에서 삶의 희열을 느끼던 북한 여성들의 기쁨은 그리 오래가지 못했습니다. 시장에서 물건을 파는 사람들이 나이와 운용 시간을 제한한 등으로 시장을 통제하는 북한 당국이 드디어 장사를 먼저 한 사람들과 중국과 러시아 물건을 들여오거나 외국 상품을 다루는 상인들, 불법이라 해도 수요에 따라 남조선 드라마나 음악에 담긴 USB를 공급하는 하던 상인들이 하나둘 붙잡혀 가기 시작했습니다.
However, the joy of North Korean women in the market did not last long. The North Korean regime that controlled the market by regulating the age limit of the market participants and the market hours began to arrest the merchant who started market. or bought in foreign goods such as Chinese and Russian, or supplied flash drives containing South Korean dramas and music. In case of flash drives, while it was illegal, the merchant still supplied the flash drives based on the demand of North Koreans. They too were arrested one by one.
어떤 지역 보위 보안원들과 당국자들은 남보다 장사를 먼저 시작한 사람들, 결과적으로 남보다 돈이 많아진 사람들을 향해 돈의 눈이 멀어 혁명을 배신한 배신자들, 자본주의 노예가 된 자들이라고 잡아들였고 군중 앞에 끌려나와 머리를 들지 못하는 평범한 아낙네에게 적게는 1년, 많게는 10년 이상의 징역형을 내리곤 했습니다.
Local state security officers apprehended those who started their business before others. Namely, they went after those who made more money than others and labeled them as those who betrayed the revolution by being blinded by money and became slaves of capitalism. These ordinary women were arrested and dragged in front of the crowd. They were sentenced to from a year to 10 years in prison.
그렇게 처벌받고 추방당하고 제 아닌 죄가 되어 장마당을 떠나는 동료들을 바라보면서 저는 탈북을 결심했고 2013년 9월 대한민국 국민이 되었습니다.
Seeing my fellow market merchants who were punished, deported, and being treated as criminals, I decided to leave North Korea. I became a South Korean citizen in September 2013.
지금 돌이켜보면 저희 부모 세대는 국가의 배급에 평생을 기대어 배급 주는 날만 기다리며 살아온 불행한 사람들이란 생각이 듭니다. 이런 삶이 먹이 주는 시간을 기다리는 짐승들이 삶과 무엇이 다르단 말입니까? 다행히 저희 세대는 국가의 배급을 기대하지 않았던 세대입니다. 그래서 처음부터 장마당에 매달렸고 시장 통해서 죽기 살기로 가족의 생계를 유지한 세대입니다.
In retrospect, I think that my parents' generation was unfortunate because they had to live their entire lives relying on the government ration system. There's no difference between such and those of the animals waiting for their feeding time. Fortunately, my generation was the one that did not rely on the state ration system. That is why it was the generation that really held on to the market from beginning and made a living for their family by working tirelessly in the market.
때문에 우리는 노동당이 아니라 장마당이 더 소중하다고 생각했고 조국과 수령보다 장마당이 더 위대하다는 믿음을 키우며 자랐습니다. 그리고 그런 믿음이 오늘의 북한 장마당을 지키고 키웠다고 자랑스럽게 말하고 싶습니다.
As such, my generation thought that market was more important than the Workers' Party of North Korea and strengthened our belief that the market was greater than North Korea and Suryong, the leader. And I can proudly say that front-mentioned thoughts have protected and nurtured today's 장마당 marketplace.
친애하는 여러분, 그런 북한 장마당이 당국자들과 간부된 농락물이 되어 사라져서는 안 됩니다. 저들에게 있어서는 있어도 되고 없어도 되는 시장일 수 있으나 오늘 북한 주민 80%가 굶주림을 면하기에 의지하고 있는 이곳이지 곳이 저 장마당, 북한의 장마당입니다. 그 장마당이 이루지 못한 북한시 사회주의와 계획경제를 비우는 자본주의 꽃으로 만발하기를 바라며 제 이야기는 여기서 마치겠습니다.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, the 장마당, the marketplace, should not disappear into the hands of North Korean officials and elites. The 장마당 might be a just market to them, but to the ordinary North Koreans, the 장마당 is what 80% of North Koreans today rely on to avoid starvation. I will end my story with the hope that 장마당 will be a full bloom as the flowers of capitalist society, including North Korean-style socialism and planned economy that cannot be achieved.
경청해 주셔서 감사합니다.
Thank you for your attentive listening.
I thought it was interesting how the word battlefield was used a number of times, because basically what we have is people in North Korea trying to survive, and the battlefield is they're trying to survive against a dictatorship that's doing everything it can to destroy them. And I want to thank, we ran a little bit over time. I thank you all for sticking with us because we got started a little bit late. But I just want to thank Esther Kim for her beautiful translation, and I just want to give a round of applause for our wonderful witnesses. I promised you I'd mention something about Operation Truth. We did promise they're letting us stay a little bit longer, but we do need to wrap up because they need to get ready for the event that's coming up later. But I did want to mention that one of the things that our coalition is very involved in is it's actually an engagement campaign. We have a partnership with the North Korean defectors, and it's freedom-loving people around the world, mostly Americans, and North Korean escapees in South Korea that have that work together. We have a radio program called Free North Korea Radio. It broadcasts every morning and every evening into North Korea. That's completely funded by private support, and it's a unique partnership between freedom-loving people and North Korean escapees. But in addition to that, we're also involved in doing everything we can to get information into North Korea by land, by sea, and by air. And we stepped up what we call Operation Truth this past summer, and I would ask all of you to be sure to get a flyer if you haven't picked up one of these on your way out. It describes the kinds of things we are delivering. And our intern last summer, Grayson Jang, we kind of designed this like an Uber Eats menu where you can order for delivery all these items, and we will see that they get delivered. It's been extremely successful. One of the reasons why this is so important, you all may be familiar that the prior government of South Korea, under the prior government of South Korea, a law was passed called an anti-leafleting law that restricted all of these activities, made it illegal for all these activities. Now, some of these activities were actually carried out by prior South Korean governments, and the balloon launches were actually something that was perfected by the United States Air Force, and it was called Operation Geely, Operation Truth, where they were sending in leaflets to get information into North Korea. These are tried and true methods that have been successful, and they've been perfected by the North Korean escapees who know how to get things in. But the anti-leafleting law that was passed has restricted the ability of the South Korean government to be able to participate in these things. So that's why we're asking freedom-loving people to step up and help to support these activities, because that law has been declared unconstitutional. But even though it's been declared unconstitutional, it has to be voted on the assembly, and the assembly is controlled by people. The Korean assembly is controlled by people that are sympathetic to the Kim regime. It's really hard for us to fathom that as freedom-loving people, but that is the situation that South Korea is facing right now. And although the current government of President Yoon Suk-yeol, who mentioned the word freedom 36 times in his speech before the Congress when he visited last year, is very sympathetic to what we're trying to do. We need to do everything we can to empower the people of North Korea to be able to communicate the truth to the people in North Korea. That's why we call it Operation Truth. But we're delivering rice, ramen, Bibles, radios, leaflets, flash drives, all the things that they said are the next episode of Crash Landing on You, whatever they ask for. But we're trying to get in as much information as we can because we believe the truth will set them free. And the people of North Korea need our help now more than ever because that regime is in its death throes. It's coming down soon. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for sticking with us, even though we got started a little late. Apuji, Chayubakan. Thank you so much. Thank you.